it is Suzanne Matteo, S-U-Z-A-N-N-E, M-A-T-T-E-O. Nice to put faces to you guys. My address is 1230 New Bedford Sharon Road, West Middlesex, Pennsylvania. Okay, let's get something straight before I start reading what I prepared. This hearing right here is to bypass a well spacing hearing, which would essentially lead to an integration hearing, which would be forced pooling. You can call it what you want, but that's what this is. And well number 8H is 305 feet from the Dubrasky property line as it forced, but it's only 505 feet from his residence. It's only 5 feet more. It's 5 feet for error. Okay. On October 22nd, 2014, Hilcorp Energy attempted to get local conditional use permits from Pulaski Township for 5 wells at the Prastina well site. One of those wells was 8H. At that time, Hilcorp wanted to bore 3 feet under the Dubrasky property, but they had also failed to even submit this permit to the DEP and still attempted to get permission from Pulaski Township at that time. At that time, Hilcorp already begun constructing the well pad without proper local permits in order, and even hired off-duty local officers to sit across from 4-generation Dubrasky family home. Many of us felt that this was an intimidation tactic by Hilcorp to get the family to sign the waiver. They didn't, and that tactic fell. Just after that local Pulaski Township hearing, Hilcorp did apply for the permit from the Department for Well 8H. Shortly after that, I, Suzanne Matteo, on Monday, November 17, 2014, at 8:23 a.m., submitted the following concerns via email to the DEP. Pulaski Prastina 6H. The applicant has checked that the permit application was submitted to the oil and gas conservation lot and appears to have failed to maintain the 330-foot setback from the Dubrasky property. Mr. Dubrasky's property is also involuntarily placed into a unit without the required well spacing order. From the supplied well plan, it's questionable whether the horizontal well bore of 6H has the required 330-foot setback from the Dubrasky property, making the horizontal well path of this well bore an illegal taking. Pulaski Prastina 7H. The applicant has checked that the permit application was subject to the oil and gas conservation law. It appears that they have failed to maintain the 330-foot setback from the Dubrasky property. Mr. Dubrasky's parcel is also involuntarily placed into the unit without the required well spacing order. Pulaski Prastina 8H. The applicant has checked that the permit application was subject to the oil and gas conservation law, and it appears to have failed to maintain the 330-foot setback from the Dubrasky property. Mr. Dubrasky's parcel is also involuntarily placed into the unit without the required well spacing order. From the supplied well plan, the horizontal well bore of 8H appears to bore directly under the Dubrasky property, making the horizontal drilling path of this well bore an illegal and unconstitutional taking. The vertical well bore of 8H at that time was less than 500 feet from the Dubrasky home, which required a waiver or variance. Coincidentally, on that same day, November 17th, representatives of Hilcorp Energy met with the DEP to discuss matters on these permits and came to the agreement that the horizontal portions of 6 and 7H could not be drilled until the permits were resubmitted and approved by the department with the horizontal portions meeting the required setback. The following days, Mr. Babb of the DEP kindly called me back and left me a message on my phone saying I was right, and that 6 and 7H were going to be resubmitted and the bore lines would be rerouted to stay back the required 330 feet under the conservation law from the Dubrasky property. So if well 6H and 7H could be moved and redirected to maintain the 330-foot setback required by law, so could the new 8H. On December 18th, the Pulaski Prastina 8H well bore of which, on December 18th, the original Pulaski Prastina 8H well bore that bore illegally under the Dubrasky property was withdrawn, and the following email was submitted to Mr. Babb from Tim Klein of Hilcorp and obtained by me during a file review at this office. This is Mr. Babb. Please accept this email as a formal withdrawal of Hilcorp Energy Company's application for a permit to drill Prastina 8H. We look forward to discussing these issues that surrounded this application in the weeks to come. Thanks. Tim Mean, Asset Team Manager, Hilcorp. In fact, these matters were discussed on January 16th, when again, representatives of Hilcorp Energy met with the DEP to determine how they could fumble with the unit sizing of their submitted permits. There, they came to the agreement that they could change units from the normal 640-ish acres that they had always submitted in their application to the department to just the horizontal bore line, and it requires 330 foot on each side of it.
I'm sorry your time is up.
Oh, I have more to go.
I understand, but we have a 5.
Can I borrow Mr. Dubrasky's time? He
No,
didn't
I'm
take his
sorry.
5.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Why can't I? I have
Because
plenty
there's
to
two
say.
rules. And you're able to submit that, those to us in writing.
When did my 5 minutes
We
start? When I got
appreciate
to the podium?
No, actually, I waited until after you did your address.
So you're gonna cut me off here?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, I actually brought written copies, so all of you guys can finish.
Perfect, thank you. And next, I'd like to call David Craig Dean.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is David Craig Dean, D-A-V-I-D-C-R-A-I-G-D-E-A-N. I live at 17143 Hare Creek Road, H-A-R-E-C-R-E-E-K, Corey, Pennsylvania, 16407. I met with you, sir, before about these issues. Mr. Dubrasky is an American citizen, a homeowner who worked hard for his home, his castle. His home has been flooded with lights at night. As DEP, or Hilcorp, provided a 3-tier water test by a licensed contractor for Mr. Dubrasky's choice. His view for months was of the guard shack facing his front window. His permitted view is now of the hill Hilcorp placed as a barrier. Well, Mr. Dubrasky received the same inaction that Mr. Nicholasevich of Pulaski Township received from the DEP, and I've been to his house. He cannot drink his water. He's had to take water from a spring elsewhere on his farm for 3 years now. I've talked to you about this. People are getting angry. Citizens have rights. And to deny those rights is unjust. I have 2 kids. I will defend them and I will defend my property. We need a moratorium. There are lawsuits flooding Washington County and Bradford County. You have a responsibility to the people of Pennsylvania. His fundamental rights are more important than these correlative rights. It's in the Constitution. He has a right to his private property, and for it not to be invaded, and for it not to worry about whether his family will become ill. Or I should not have to worry if my children will contract leukemia. It is time to wake up. I will defend my property.
Can I take his extra time?
Thank you. No, I'm sorry.
Mr. Dubrasky's home.
The next person that we would like to call is Michael Gens. Michael Gens. Thank you very much.
Michael Gens, M-I-C-H-A-E-L-G-E-N-Z. I don't have a lot of the technical or factual information. All I can speak is also for my part. I believe, I just met Mr. Dubrasky a couple of months back. I'm an artist, I'm an animator. I have a project that I'm working on. And I come from California. I worked for Disney for many years. I came to Edinburgh to teach animation, and now I'm seeing this state just go to hell with all these fire balls that I've never seen in my life. All of a sudden, just going down the highway. And when I came to visit Mr. Dubrasky and his family, I couldn't believe that he had one right out front, his front door there. He couldn't hear or talk because the noise was so loud. It was like a jet engine. I'm really regretting living here and moving here to Pennsylvania. I do believe that his rights are being violated. And it's clear and evident that they've experienced a lot of loss, suffering, and pain. I don't know what else it would take for you to hear that. I do believe it's intimidation, corporate bullying, really. There's a lot of land out there, and the people that did lease, why isn't it in front of their front doors? Why is it so close to his? It just breaks my heart, to be able to see that kind of that he's suffering that kind of a situation. And I believe that I was looking on your website to see if I could find a mission statement for the DEP. I couldn't find one. And if you're there to protect the environment and there to protect the people that live in that environment, I don't see that happening. And I just support and hope that you would advocate to protect Mr. Dubrasky's rights and not grant that waiver. I believe that he has a right to live in peace, and he's not bothering anybody. He's a tax-paying citizen, and I'm honored to know him. But I really, and I feel his pain. And I live in just a half hour north of here, and I'm afraid that this is just going to proliferate and just spread. So please consider his wanting not to have that waiver, and I appreciate the time and for the opportunity to have this hearing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Christian Folkman.
Christian Folkman, CHRISTIAN, FULKMAN, 4156 Old Pulaski Road, Wilmington, PA. As I said, my name is Christian Folkman. I live in Pulaski Township. My farm, my family's farm, is within the township and within this proposed unit of the 8H Golf Course. 3 years ago, my family celebrated the 200th anniversary of our farm. And our farm is a bicentennial farm through the PA Department of Agriculture. It has been recognized as the Lawrence County Conservation Farm of the Year. Just to name a few things about our farm. It began in 1812 and it's been passed down through many generations. I'm the 8th generation. My children will be the 9th generation living on the farm. And the farm has been had many years of hardworking men and women dedicating their lives to sustaining the legacy of our farm. My parents, Gary and Glenda, currently own the farm, and they've owned it since the death of my grandmother in 2005. Our farm is not a high production farm. We sustain the farm. It's about sustainability. We have beef cows and we raise hay. We have 105 acres. It's hard for us to continue to work. We continue to work hard to keep the farm going and continue to maintain full-time jobs as well. In 1997, my grandparents were approached by Atlas Oil and Gas, wanting to lease the farm. They signed the lease for $7 an acre, and they received very small royalties. This was obviously a conventional gas well. We received less than $100 an acre, $100 a year in royalties from this conventional well over the last 18 years. This has been very disappointing to us, especially with the cost of taxes and insurance and general upkeep of the farm continuing to rise. In addition to the lack of royalties from this conventional shallow well, our land has been held in production. Therefore, we had no opportunity to sign an oil and gas lease for $3,500 an acre, as many people did when Hilcorp first moved into the area to develop unconventional gas wells. Even though we were unable to have the opportunity to lease land with Hilcorp due to being held by production, we're still very optimistic about the potential of being within a unit of an unconventional gas well and receiving potential royalties that could help benefit the farm and keep it sustainable for years to come. We see this new well as a way to help keep our farm costs, taxes, and insurance premiums, and countless other improvements, and help to make those. We want to continue the Crystal Air Farm legacy and pass it down to our children and grandchildren. They may enjoy the land as we have in many years past. The development of this well will definitely help alleviate the burden of high costs of maintaining the farm and help ensure that the farm can stay in the family for years to come. I am sad to say that we may not share the same viewpoint as our friends Kathy and Dubrasky. We would not do anything that we believe would be harmful to them, and we understand their discomfort with the activities that have happened on the surface near their home. This waiver is a subsurface activity, totally unrelated to the surface activities. Based on facts, we don't believe this is harmful in any way. And based on the law, it is apparent that if Hilcorp stays 330 feet from Dubrasky's parcel and the proposed unit boundary of the producing portion of the 8H wellbore, there is no reason that this unit and its wellbore should not be permitted. I, as a professional engineer, have complete confidence in Hilcorp Energy and their development strategy and safety of the completion of the 8H wellbore. We hope that DEP will give great consideration to granting this waiver. In the instance this waiver is not granted and the unit can't be developed as proposed, we would be unable to capture the value of our property. We're not asking anyone to diminish the value of their property or change their mind. We just want to fully explore and extract what is rightfully ours.
Thank you.
Son, you need, and could you tell me if Gary Holtman is here, or are you testifying?
I was testifying on
Okay,
behalf.
perfect, thank
He's
you
here.
so much.
He is
He's
here.
here. Okay, and,
Do you want to submit that? No, not necessary, but I'd like to.
thank you. Next, I'd like to call Becky Hackert.
Becky Hackert, B-E-C-K-Y, H-A-C-K-E-R-T, 2055 Mercer and Wilmington Road, in Wilmington, Pennsylvania. As I said, my name is Becky Hackert. I'm an employee of Western Land Services, and throughout the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked within the area with numerous landowners in the process of them securing and negotiating their oil and gas leases. And in that process, landowners are under the assumption and the impression that they will be eventually in a developed unit or pool. And by granting a waiver, and the waiver process being available, it does allow the collective group to have their rights protected and developed accordingly. Not granting the waiver diminishes the law's intent of those rights as a whole. And I know from the work that I've done with the landowners, again in this area for numerous years, I've been in the land business for over 9 years, that's the expectation, is that they will be in that right to be developed. And again, I respectfully request that you review the waiver and the intent behind it for all those rights to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you very
Increase the
much.
size of the units,
And
limiting royalties?
next, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought we were done.
Next, I'd like to call David Dean.
I already testified.
Okay, you must have just been out of order, thank you. Next, I would like to call David Weinkoff.
My name is David Weinkoff, D-A-V-I-D-W-E-I-N-K-A-U-F, 11601 Thatcher Road, Conneautville, Pennsylvania, 16406. I'm late to this, and so I'll try to be as brief as I can. I visited Ivan at his house, and I was very impressed with his house and his property, but very unimpressed with the closeness of that rig. And when I was there, Ivan talked to me about his fear of his water being contaminated. And that's the issue I want to deal with right now. Has anybody seen this? Came out this morning. And I'll give you a copy because I picked up some extra copy. It says, "Cooked, how Pennsylvania regulators keep water contamination from fracking off the books." In other words, it's an article on how the DEP cooks the books on contamination. There are 260 contaminated wells that are documented, but this article documents how that is just the tip of the iceberg, based on 9 principles, which I'm going to read. And it has to do with water quality, and that's why I'm addressing this issue. And the article, because of its length, does not have all the documentation. But if you go online, you can get all the documentation about which they base these 9 points on. Number 1, baseline data from pre-drill water test results is dismissed. Post-drill water tests become the baseline or the norm. The DEP issues a non-impact determination despite the documented changes in water quality before and after drilling. This changes the local water quality history. Pre-drill tests are essentially thrown out. DEP cites post-drill water tests as if they are pre-drill test results. Number 3, DEP issues non-impact determination letters to neighbors of residents with positive determination letters. Number 4, DEP kicks the can. In other words, it kicks the can down the road to another department so that the results are never documented and never put on the books. Number 5, DEP uses the presumption of liability section under Act 13 to dismiss the complaint, basing their conclusion on the loophole in the law rather than documented evidence of water contamination. Number 6, oil and gas operator reports residential water contamination left to handle its own investigation. In other words, the company tells DEP it has tested the homeowner's water and found post-drill contamination. DEP contacts the water well owner who declines DEP's assistance, so the case is left off the books. In other words, it's never documented. And this is what the article is talking about. Number 7, DEP water tests find contamination but fails to make a determination in some cases for years until water quality returns to normal background conditions. Number 8, the department or operator cites pre-existing or background conditions as reasons for contamination without providing evidence. Pre-drill test results to demonstrate the history of water quality problems or cites no evidence at all. And number 9, which is the most disturbing, the department shreds complaints after 5 years, therefore never putting them on the books. This is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous. Why are you in bed with these bullies and these drillers who are contaminating water and the air? We have a right to clean water and air, and you people are dismissing it. You are not enforcing the law. You're not going after the drillers. You're not putting things on the books that we need to see. And as I say, that is my concern about everybody who is in this mess that we call fracking. I'm a landowner myself, and I fear it's coming this way. And I don't want my health ruined, and I don't want my water ruined. So as I say, do your job. You're working for us, not these bullies. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a copy of the article. You can read it if you wish.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Susie Byers-Dorfer.